Hello and welcome to the Eagle Eye Focus Talk podcast. I'm your host, Louie DiBi, first ever edition. And today we're going to be pleased to be joined by Eagles offensive guard Julian Vandervelde. Julian, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I'm digging that crazy music you guys had beforehand too. That's tight.
Yeah. So, obviously, you've been with the Eagles for a couple years now, and you were with head coach Andy Reid. But now that new head coach Kelly's coming in, how's the transition under him coming along so far? Coming along in his training camp so much?
I think it's coming along really well. You know, we've got a lot of guys, a lot of new guys in the locker room right now. There's been a lot of changes, but guys are buying into the system. You know, it's never going to be a smooth transition when you're not just changing the head coach, but you're changing basically the entire coaching staff. You know, you're changing systems, philosophies, mentalities. But guys are buying into it. You know, everyone's working together. Everyone's real positive about the entire experience, and I think that in the end, it's going to be a real positive change for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. So, Chip Kelly, what does he do differently? How does he? If you compare him to Andy Reid, what does he do differently, coach, compared to what Andy Reid did with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, every coach is going to have a little bit of a different style, and you know, Andy was he was a great coach. You know, he's one of the most successful coaches in Eagles history. You know, just a great guy and a great person. Chip brings, you know, college coaches come in sometimes in the NFL, and I've seen it before. I spent a month down in Tampa with Greg Schiano when he came in, and you see sometimes, you know, that more run around, that more hard work, the physicalness, a little bit more structure that you would come to expect in college football. And I think that that's something that Chip does differently. It's a little bit more organized. There's a little bit more structure to everything. The work aspect of it is there, and you know, just the entire mentality of the team really changes with the head coach from one guy to the next. You know, whereas Andy never swore, he was more of a calm and collected individual. You know, Chip's a fiery guy. He's fiery. He's energetic. He's a player's coach, the kind of guy that you want to play for. I think that that's really driving. That's being a driving force behind the improvement of the team.
All right, so let's talk a little about you, offensive guard for the Eagles, coming out of Iowa in 2011. What have you been doing during the offseason and coming?
A lot of training in different ways. You know, with a new system like the one that Chip's bringing in, you kind of have to change the way that you train as well. You know, there's a new playbook to learn. You know, everyone's kind of been stepping up and doing the mental side of things, especially. It's a very intelligent, intensive system, especially offensively. You know, you have to be able to think fast. You have to be able to process a lot of information. So that kind of changes the way that you mentally train yourself in the off season. And physically, it's the same thing. It's a very fast system, like everyone knows. You know, Chip likes to run. So the physicality of it, the conditioning changes. So I have to train in ways like that. Part of my training, I have a new son, 6 months old, so I'm back here in Iowa with him, and you know, he's a big boy. He's like 6 months old, 25 pounds. So I mean, just carrying him around is part of my daily workout regimen. But you know, between the training and the baby, it's kind of an intense off season for me.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So tell me, I know you're a pretty talented singer. Do you like the music that they're playing during practices?
I love it. You know, it's not just about the distraction factor. I mean, you know, being able to block out the sound and the noise and the distractions is something that I think is beneficial. Certainly, it's something that you learn. You know, if not in high school, then in college, when the stadiums get bigger, the crowds get bigger. You know, game time rolls around. You have to be able to block out whatever's going on, especially on road games, and play your game regardless of whatever's going on around you. But I also like it because before practice, you know, the warm-up is usually, for most teams, the worst part of practice is the warm-up. You're just coming out of the locker room. You know, just that getting amped up portion of it. I find that's good for me, and that it really shifts me more into the practice mentality. You know, I can't speak for anybody else, but I think that aside from the distraction factor, it creates an energy and it creates a mentality. You know, when you step out onto the field, that you know that it's go time, and you know, whether it's the game or practice, I think we're going to be able to carry that same mentality over, that intensity and that fire.
Do you have any specific music that you prefer that they would play during practice?
Well, I'm in a heavy metal band, so For me,
Oh, nice.
a little bit less pop, a little bit more metal would be nice. But outside of that, no, I think it's it's great. The style is there. It's popular stuff. It's not something that's going to offend anybody, so we shouldn't get any complaints about it outside of the occasional noise complaint, I'm sure, from the neighbors. But we all like it, and I like the vibe that it creates.
Yeah, so, you guys have a deep roster at running back. I mean, LeSean McCoy, Bryce Brown, Felix Jones, and even Chris Polk. And your offensive line has been really talented. Has played with some injuries last season, obviously, with Jason Kelsey going down and Jason Peters and Todd Harriman. With back healthy and LeSean McCoy another year better, do you think that the Eagles' offense is going to become more of a run-based system under head coach Chip Kelly?
You never really know. A coach comes in and you get a new system and you think you get a handle on it, and then they can change it on you in a heartbeat. That's something that you kind of have to take more game by game. Some teams are going to be better against the run, some teams are going to be better against the pass. We practice a little bit of everything. You practice even the most obscure plays that you might only run once in a season. You get those plays in practice because you never know when it's going to be useful. If we start off the season more run intensive, then other teams will start they'll start stuffing the box, and then we got to go deep with it. If we're slinging the ball all over the yard, they'll spread it out, and we may have to switch back to the run. So it's going to be more of a game to game thing. But I do think that with this system, everybody's going to get more touches. The offense is going to be humming along pretty good, and I think that everyone's at least going to be happy with the amount of production that they're going to see out of the offense.
Yeah, so how is Jason Kelsey and Todd Harriman looking after coming back from their injuries so far in practice?
It's kind of hard to say. In OTAs, you can never really tell too much. They say that some guys look great in drills, and then you throw the pads on them and they just look terrible. And for some guys, it's the exact opposite. Some guys can't run a 40 to save their lives, but you put pads on them and they're absolute monsters. Yeah. So I've seen Jason and Todd in pads. I've seen what they can do. I've seen the level that they can play on, and it's really extraordinary. So until camp, we're not really going to be sure what anybody can do. We're not going to know how their injuries are faring. We're not going to know how the new guys are. We're not going to know how the vets are adjusting to the new system. So I think it's going to be a very telling first few weeks of camp, and I know we're all really excited to get started.
Yeah. You're a pretty big guy for offensive. I mean, obviously for the offensive guards, you got to stay in shape, obviously. And who do you? There's a lot of good offensive guards in the league, and obviously in history. But is there a certain guy that you mimic your game off of the most?
There's not one specific guy. I came out of the Iowa system, was trained up there, so I've always kind of looked at other offensive linemen from Iowa, guys like Marshall Yanda and Casey Wiegman, guys that have come through that system and come out and been pretty successful at this level. So for me, those are the guys that I've seen the most film on. Those are the guys that I like to try and emulate my game after. At least that's how it was at Iowa, and I've tried to kind of carry that mentality over here to the pros. But one thing that you always want to do when you step up to the next level is you want to look at the best guys at that level, and some of the best guys that I've ever seen are here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Guys like Todd, guys like Evan Mathis. So you take a little piece from everybody's game. You see what works for you. I think that everyone's game is really just an amalgamation of the parts and pieces that they've taken from their best experiences over the years. So I'm just trying to learn from these better guys, whether it's watching film or seeing them in practice, and take a little bit here and there and improve my game as much as possible.
Yeah. Most of the headlines for the Philadelphia Eagles have been obviously the quarterback battle between Michael Vick, Nick Foles, Matt Barkley. Dennis Dixon, Jay Kenny are in there too. Do you have a personal favorite that you want to start? And obviously the OTAs is hard to see, like you said, about the offensive lineman, really who's progressing as you got to go in pads and training camp. Is there a certain guy that you have a favorite to win the starting job?
I don't think we've really had time to see enough of any of the quarterbacks to even get an idea about it, really. You go through a few weeks of OTAs, and then you get the draft picks coming in, and everything gets shuffled around. And as an offensive line, we've just been so focused on learning our assignments, on doing our job. At the end of the day, our goal is just that it really doesn't matter who's back there. We have to protect them the same. We have to run block the same. We have to be able to to open holes and keep them safe, no matter who it is that's in the backfield taking snaps or running the ball. So, even if we would have had time to stop and look at them, I think we're just so concerned with our own performance that at this point that's what's taking all of our focus. We haven't even had time to look in the backfield.
Yeah. Are you planning on maybe singing the national anthem this year for the Eagles? Because I know you're a pretty talented singer.
It's always an option. It's always an option. If somebody asks, then I'm sure I'll step up and give it another shot. It was a lot of fun doing it at Flight Night last year, and that's something that I always keep in the back of my mind, no matter what. Is you never want to forget those words, so I go over it all the time just in case, on short notice or something. But I also know that last year I was one of the judges for the contest for people to come in and sing at the home games last year. And those guys work really hard, and I certainly wouldn't want to take away the opportunity of anyone else. The opportunity of a lifetime for them, just so that I could stand up there and sing.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, again, thanks for really being on the show. I really appreciate it. Good luck in training camp, the preseason, and ahead coming up in the regular season. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show. Good luck.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, that was good stuff there with Philadelphia Eagles guard Julian Vandervelde, who I think is really going to make this roster and open some eyes come August. I think he's going to add great depth to the Eagles' offensive line, and I think, honestly, if Todd Hermans goes down, this guy should be able to come in and really fill the hole pretty well. I honestly like him better than Danny Watkins. So let's move on to the Eagles training camp, which is coming up in a couple weeks. This is the first Eagle Eye Focus Sports Talk podcast, by the way. I know you can check us out on eaglesportstalk.blogspot.com. So let's move on. Let's talk about the safety position a little bit, because a lot of people are saying that Kenny Phillips and Patrick Chung are the two guys to be the lock at the position. But, Kenny Phillips, with the New York Giants, he always battled injuries. But, I think hands down, if he's healthy, he's the starting safety. But then you need a strong side safety as well. And, Patrick Chung was pretty impressive in New England. But I think I want to see a little bit more of this Earl Wolf rookie out of NC State, the 5th-round pick. I think he's honestly going to be pretty good. I think he resembles Brian Dawkins a little bit. Not saying he's going to pan out to be Brian Dawkins, because that's kind of hard to say, obviously, because of how well Brian Dawkins did. But I think, honestly, this guy, if he comes in, shows up in training camp, really knows how, stays in his place, really gets the system down, I think he might actually be considered a starter, because Patrick Chung's good, but he's undersized and he does battle some injuries. So if Chung cannot perform, honestly, I think Chip Kelly's not going to hesitate to pull anybody out of the game, though, just to let you know. I think we all get the sense that Chip Kelly is a much different head coach than Andy Reid. I believe that is true, and I think everybody agrees with that. Because, like Vandervelde said, Andy Reid didn't swear, and he wasn't as an open kind of guy. Chip Kelly's a player's coach that's going to tell you what he thinks, and I like that about him. I think that fiery intensity, like Julian said, is a really good thing, I think, for the Eagles, and I think they really need someone like that to get in your face. So, Vandervelde really gave us a good insight on how Chip Kelly's been running things. So, going back to the safeties, I think Nate Allen, Kirk Coleman, I think I've seen enough of them to know that they're backups. I think Nate Allen still is a potential starter, but he just can never stay healthy, and when he does, I really have not seen enough of him. I really haven't seen a lot what I like from him. Not I've seen enough, because he has started for the past 2 seasons, but he's just battled some injuries. He looked really good in his rookie year in 2010, but just has not looked good since then. I think, honestly, you might want to make a move and go get Quentin Michael back. I don't know. I think he was part of the Dream Team. He did not become a part of the Dream Team. He was released that year, and he was off to the St. Louis Rams. Maybe you bring him back. He's a hard-hitting safety. He's a veteran. He was with the team for a while. I think it depends on how Kenny Phillips and Patrick Chung turn out, because I think those two are the starters, because Chung's a really good player. I just want to make sure that he can stay healthy, because that was one of the problems in New England. He was really good. He was the starting safety for the Patriots, and he was probably one of the, to me, other than Vince Wilfork, he was probably the best player on that defense. Last year he only had 43 combined tackles and 2 interceptions, but in years past, though, he posted a lot bigger numbers. Let's see if I can look it up. In his career, he had 5 interceptions in 2011. So that's what you need to get back to. I think with the Eagles, they were not able to turn the ball over on defense. They weren't able to get those big plays on defense last season, which is probably why I think they went out and got Patrick Chung. 7 interceptions in 2 starting seasons. I think that's pretty good, in my opinion. I think him and Kenny Phillips are really capable of doing so, and I think Kirk Coleman and Nate Allen really aren't, because I think we've seen that. And Earl Wolf, who knows? I mean, the safety position is probably, other than quarterback, is probably the best position, the key to watch for Eagles training camp coming up this upcoming training camp, which is going to be awesome. I mean, with all the new position battles, I think it's going to be really cool to have to see some of these guys come in. I mean, the offensive line, you got, I mean, obviously, I think it's a lock that Peters, hence that all these guys stay healthy, that Peters, Evan Mathis, Jason Kelsey, Todd Harrimans, and Lane Johnson are your starters. Maybe not Lane Johnson. I think Dennis Kelly has looked pretty decent, but I think Lane Johnson, you definitely drafted him in the 4th overall pick to start him. He is a little bit raw, but I think he'll pan out to be okay. And then, obviously, your depth, Danny Watkins and Julian Vandervelde and Dallas Reynolds. I mean, these are guys that are definitely going to really help out your team in case of injuries. But, I mean, quarterback is going to be awesome to watch. I think the dark horse is Matt Barkley. I like Dennis Dixon personally, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's a backup if Michael Vick gets cut. If not, I don't think that Dennis Dixon will make the roster. Because I think everybody agrees Barkley's a lock to make the starting to make the team. I think Michael Vick, if he wins the job, which I honestly think he will probably be on there, and they're paying him a lot. I don't know if they're going to cut him. They might keep him as a backup, but I think Michael Vick's the only one that... Michael Vick and Dennis Dixon are the 2 guys that are not locks. I think Nick Foles and Matt Barkley are definitely locks. But who knows? If Matt Barkley comes in and pulls a Russell Wilson where he just lights it up in the preseason, Chip Kelly will start him. I mean, he doesn't have to... I don't like how people are putting this title on Chip Kelly that he needs a mobile quarterback. He doesn't need a mobile quarterback, people. He's even said... Don't put a label on me. He's going to put whoever is the best chance for the Eagles organization to win football games. And I think that's exactly hit the ball in the noggin. Because I think Nick Foles had the mobility last year, not to run the read option like RG3 or Colin Kaepernick. But look at against Tampa Bay last year, him moving around in the pocket, making throws off his feet. Also, he ran for a touchdown, so it's not like if he needs to run, he can't. He's very capable of doing so. But yes, if you want the read option guy that has a big arm, you're going to go with Michael Vick or Dennis Dixon. And my only problem with Michael Vick is we've seen the past 2 years that it's a lock that he's not going to stay healthy. I mean, he started one full season in his entire career, and that was in 2006 when they did make the NFC Championship game, so who knows what Vick's capable of doing when he is starting a full season. So, I mean, obviously you see that, but, I mean, the turnovers too. He never goes down. He takes unnecessary hits. Last year, I mean, his interceptions were in fumbles. He could not hold on to the football. And you know what's the worst part of it all, though, was a lot of them were in the red zone. The Eagles were one of the top teams in red zone turnovers. Chip Kelly will have none of that this year, and I think that's why Michael Vick's on the thinnest line. You can't. I mean, if he is not progressing under Chip Kelly, and I think this system is perfect for Vick to get back to where he was in 2010. This is if you can't do it this year, to me it's over. You have to come into the preseason training camp, hold on to the football. You got to get the ball out quickly because that's what Chip Kelly's offense is, a fast-paced offense. So you have to get it out quickly. But if you go into the preseason, the regular season, again, fumbling the football, throwing unnecessary interceptions, forcing passes, taking unnecessary hits. First off, he's going to be hurt by week 4, but I don't think Chip Kelly's going to even start him, and he might not even make this roster. They're paying him a lot of money, and honestly, I think Dennis Dixon is the cheaper version of Michael Vick, money-wise. He's got a big arm. He's a big-bodied guy. I mean, he really hasn't gotten a chance to start. He was coached by Chip Kelly, who was his offensive coordinator in Oregon in 2007, his senior year. Besides that torn ACL against Arizona, Dennis Dixon probably would have won the Heisman. He would have been a first-round pick compared to a fifth-round pick. He's 2-1 as a starter. I think he definitely deserves a roster spot. If you're not going to start him, which I don't think they're going to, I think he would be a great backup to Nick Foles, assuming that, say, if Michael Vick does not win. I think Barkley will have time, be the third guy, sit behind them, learn the system, which is a complex system, I believe, and just watch this football team. And I think Matt Barkley and Nick Foles can be our future guys potentially. I want to see how it works out this year with those young quarterbacks. So let's go to the running back position. Another bright spot in training camp. You have LeSean McCoy, who's going to be your starter, the Pro Bowl running back. Last year had a disappointing year, mainly because he just didn't get the ball enough. Plus, he had that concussion against Washington where he was out about 4 weeks before the end of the season last year. great, probably one of the best receiving, probably the most explosive running back in the league. Obviously, you can maybe debate C.J. Spiller or Doug Martin, but Chris Johnson, of course. But I mean, then you go to Bryce Brown. 2 starts last year, both times over 130 yards. That's incredible. 400 yards in 2 starts combined. I mean, wow, that's in 4 touchdowns, I believe. 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think it was 3. I mean, Bryce Brown to me is your backup guy. Obviously, you do have Felix Jones there, who will bring a veteran presence to a young running back group. But Bryce Brown last year was electric, and I think he was the bright spot. I mean, a hidden gem they got in the 7th round out of. I mean, Kansas State, but he really didn't play in college all that much. So I mean, he's there, but the one thing about Bryce Brown, fumbles. Fumbles are the one concern with him. He, like Michael Vick, not comparing the two, of course, could not hold on to the football. And you can't expect to get on the field if you can't hang on to the football. So I think, I mean, Bryce Brown has got to look behind, though, because if he's a turnover machine this year, Felix Jones is going to come in. Felix Jones last year did great when DeMarco Murray was hurt, which he was a lot of the time last season. He's a great catcher out of the backfield. He can kick return and punt return, which the Eagles really need some electricity in the special teams. I think Deshaun Jackson's going to go back to punt returning this year. And, I mean, but I think Felix Jones is going to be a great addition to that as well. And then Chris Polk. I think they are going to keep 4 running backs on this roster, and I think Chris Polk's going to add great depth, and he's a big-bodied guy that can play a good special teams role. To me, that's nothing more, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to compete with Felix Jones to jump ahead the spot. Honestly, in my opinion, I think Felix Jones is. We need that veteran guy that can actually get on the field, and he's good. He's a good run blocker too, which is a bright spot. Obviously, for a running back, you need to be able to do that. So obviously, we know about receiver. Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, Jason Avant, another year as 3 starters. But don't count out Aurelius Ben and Damaris Johnson to get a lot of time. I think both are going to make this roster. I think they're going to keep probably 5 or maybe 6. Probably, I would say I think they should keep 6 this year because of how good they have. I like that Ansam Moma guy from Boston College that's really tall. I mean, he's like a basketball player. Really raw, though. He tore his ACL in college, I think, a couple of years back. So, I mean, we have a lot of young talent at the receiver position, but I like to go to the 3-4 defensive end position before we wrap it up. I think that's a really interesting spot to look at. You have Fletcher Cox on the one side, first-round pick last year, 12th overall. The Eagles traded up to get him out of Mississippi State. Dominant last year, had 6 sacks. I mean, he was really good. Was up there in the team in tackles. I mean, he was a run-stopping machine. But now it's a new system. It's a new scheme. I think he fits perfect at a 3-4 defensive end. So, I mean, you have him, I think, as a lock on the one, and then you have Isaac Swapuaga, who's super underrated to me. I think he's going to be make a huge impact for the Eagles in his first year at nose tackle. And then the other side, you have Benny Logan, who was a 3rd-round pick out of LSU. And then you have Cedric Thornton also, who is another year better coming in for the Eagles, and he was on the field a lot last year. I think it's going to be a rotation at the other side between Cedric Thornton and Benny Logan, unless one of them really just stand out between. And I think that's why you need to look at training camp. I think Benny Logan is someone you really want to keep an eye on. He was really good in an SEC team, which has a really good. Everyone has good running backs in that. Obviously, Eddie Lacy's probably the brightest guy in Alabama. The best guy, of course, in my opinion. So I think one of them are going to really stand out to be the best. And then outside linebacker, Connor Barwin and Trent Cole, I think, are locks. Well, I don't consider Trent Cole a lock to get. I mean, if he cannot produce as an offensive, not offensive. I'm sorry, outside linebacker. I mean, he might get cut because he probably fits more in a 4-3 DN spot, like he's been so productive with the Eagles in the past couple of years. Except for last year, of course, he only had 3 sacks. Very disappointing. But if he can produce this team, I mean, it's got new pieces like Vandervelde said, but everyone's buying into the system. And the corner position, I think Kerry Williams and Brandon Fletcher, they're not big name guys, but they're both productive guys. Bradley Fletcher has just been lost under the depth chart in St. Louis, who got some really good corners. Janoris Jenkins and Cortland Finnegan. So I think he's going to come in. I think he's a good press coverage corner. Look at against Buffalo last year, the interception, taking it all the way to win the game, really to put that game on ice against the Bills last year. It shows what Bradley Fletcher can do, and I think that he's definitely going to be a starter in my opinion. And then Kerry Williams, who really hasn't gotten off to a good start with the fans, of course. He skipped the voluntary minicamps, which honestly, if they're not voluntary, Roger Goodell, say that they're mandatory, because everyone's saying, well, they're voluntary but they're mandatory. No, you can't do that. That's not how it works. I mean, it's to me, in my opinion, that I'm kind of on Kerry Williams' side here. But is he definitely going to be the starting outside corner? I don't know. Don't count out Jordan Poyer, the 7th-round pick out of Oregon State. I think he's might turn out to be the Bryce Brown of last year that really might separate himself from the other rookies. He's a great coverage corner. He's good. He fits Chip Kelly's system perfectly. Chip Kelly brought in players that he played against college. So, he's familiar with these players, and I think Kerry Williams was really productive last year in the playoffs. Obviously, you knew what he did in the Super Bowl, and he's a feisty guy like that. I like that grit and that attitude that the Eagles need. They've really been missing for the past couple of years. But, Curtis Marsh, I think, still needs another year of developing. I think he's definitely a lock to make the roster. He's going to be a solid backup. And then I think it comes down, and Brandon Boykin to me, I think Jordan Poyer is definitely, if he doesn't win the outside job, he'll definitely give Brandon Boykin a run for his money. Because Boykin was on and off last year. You looked at him, he was really impressive against Baltimore last year, but then he wasn't so the next week against Larry Fitzgerald, which he got absolutely torched. So, it was on and off for him, so if Jordan Poyer comes in, Chip Kelly's going to start whoever's the best player. And that's what I really like this year, is there's so much unknown about the 2013 Philadelphia Eagles, which is why when I was talking with Julian Vandervelde, trying to get a lot of stuff out and see what's really been going on, because this is such a different roster, and brand new head coaching staff. A new offensive coordinator, and Pat Shurmur, former head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and the new defensive coordinator, Billy Davis, who I really like. I think he brings an attitude to the defense that they need. So, this is a brand new Eagles team, and I just can't wait to see what happens in training camp. So, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's Eagle Eye Focused Sports Talk podcast. It was great talking with Eagles guard Julian Vandervelde. Good talking about some positional battles and coming up in training camp. Not much going on right now. It's July 10th, so not much going on. I will be going away for a week, so we will come back with a podcast a week before, a couple days before the Eagles training camp gets underway. This was the first edition. Thanks for joining me here on Eagle Eye Focus Sports Talk podcast. Follow me on Twitter at DB Sports Talk. Also check out, I have another podcast. I work for GetRealFootball.com, the official affiliate of the Eagle Eye Focus Sports Talk podcast. Check out my blog, eaglesportstalk.blogspot.com, for all the podcasts that will be archived, and also all of these Philadelphia Eagle articles that I write. Also, go to GetRealFootball.com. I am a fantasy football writer for that website. So, I think that's going to do it. Philadelphia Eagles training camp coming up in 2 weeks. I know every Eagles fan's excited. Follow me on Twitter if you want to be on the show. Next time we will be having EaglesAddict.com on the show. It was great, again, talking with Vandervelde. I cannot wait for the NFL season. I can smell it already. Training camp's coming up, preseason. It's been a long wait. I've been waiting for football since the end of the Super Bowl. So, fantasy draft's coming up too.